Well, send my baby, love me well, I found a new place to live. I really can't criticize anyone in the entertainment business. It's hard to live up to an image. Elvis Presley, the legendary king of rock and roll, died too young, leaving fans all over the world in mourning. Now, almost 50 years later, news has spread that Elvis's tomb has been opened. Why do you think you're still going strong after all these years? It gives me vitamin E. I am not joking. Make me look bad, man. Derek, I don't know. I like running the business. It's fun for me to do this. The reveal of what's inside is nothing short of amazing. But why would the grave of Elvis Presley be opened? What lies do the detectives want to find? Come with us as we look into this one-of-a-kind event and find out the truth, the lies, and the secrets that have been kept for years. Now let's begin. Before we talk about what was found when Elvis Presley's grave was opened, it's important to know about his early life and how he became the figure we all loved. Elvis Presley's early life. Elvis Aaron Presley came into the world on January 8, 1935, in Tupelo, Mississippi. He was the second of twin boys. Elvis had to grow up alone because his brother Jesse died before he was born. Even though they didn't have much money, his parents worked hard to give him a simple childhood full of love and music. Elvis first heard music when he was young, and it was the lively gospel music in church, having a big impact on his unique artistic style. Elvis's ability was clear when he won a talent show when he was only 10 years old. He was already known for his voice at that age. Elvis became involved in the city's lively music scene, especially on Beale Street, after moving there in search of better chances. His mother gave him his first guitar for his 11th birthday, which started a passion that would change his life and lead to fame. Elvis stood out at Elsie Humes High School with his unique style and love of music, but he was picked on because of these things. He didn't give up, and he kept improving his skills by going to talent shows and learning about music whenever he could. Elvis's skills really started to shine when he was in high school. The crowd went crazy for him when he sang at the annual minstrel show. It was clear that Elvis had a natural talent, and each act made him feel better about himself. Elvis worked different jobs after high school, but he never gave up on his singing dreams. How did he become famous? What caused him to die so quickly? What new information has been found? So watch on to find out. To fame and a job as an actor. His rise to fame began with groundbreaking records at Sun Records, even though he came from a poor family in Tupelo. People loved the way his music mixed blues, country, and church. It also helped create a new style called rock and roll. Many people looked up to Elvis because of how he performed on stage and how unique his singing was. He had more songs than anyone else on the charts, minus 149 of them made it to the Billboard Hot 100. It took all of his songs 80 weeks to reach #1. He became the best-selling solo act of all time by selling over 1 billion records around the world. Elvis did more than just rule music. He was also successful in the movies. He was in 31 movies that did well at the box office. Besides being a big name in singing, he was also a real movie star. People still talk about his TV features, like the '68 comeback, as some of the best of their time. Elvis had a very successful career. At just 36 years old, he won the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award and won 3 Grammy Awards. Besides that, he was inducted into many music halls of fame for styles such as pop, country, rockabilly, rhythm and blues, adult contemporary, and gospel. His records and movies became very famous all over the world, even though he rarely performed outside of the United States. People all over the world knew and loved him by his first name alone. During his career, Elvis broke down barriers and set records that are still known today. However, his fight with drugs and falling popularity hurt his career. People who were close to Elvis knew that he had been dependent on prescription drugs for a long time. He had been struggling with addiction for years and often turned to his personal doctor, who was known to help him satisfy his needs. Concerningly, Dr. Nick had been recommending a wide range of drugs, including Quaaludes and Demerol. Elvis's health was quickly getting worse in the months before he died. A lot of weight had been added to him, and his stage acts became less stable. He often looked lost, losing the words to the songs and having trouble keeping up with the beat of the music. Even with these problems, his shows in Las Vegas and on music tours became famous and often broke attendance records. His unique mix of raw energy and emotional expression set a standard for live shows that no one else could match. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's boss, was worried about his health more and more but didn't know what to do. During his famous 1973 Aloha, one important thing happened. At an event in Hawaii, where Burning Love lyrics cards were shown for him, some of his friends said he barely looked at them, but the cards themselves gave him a safety net that he hadn't needed before. Many people thought it was because Elvis was abusing drugs, but they said it was just a quirk he had had all through his career. They brought up the '68 comeback special, in which he had trouble remembering the words to his own songs, pointing out that it has been a problem for him for a long time. But when he forgot the words to a song, he often added humor and connected with the crowd, making what could have been a bad situation into a cute one. In the same way, during a live show in Las Vegas in 1970, he used written music to keep up with several songs. Fans love these moments of honesty and relatability. Elvis Presley died on August 16, 1977, at the age of 42. His death and the events leading up to it were both very sad. Elvis had been up all night because he couldn't sleep on the day he died, and he had taken several doses of his medicines. Around 2:30 a.m., he went back to the bathroom, which was where he usually read. After a few hours, his fiancée Ginger found him on the floor, not awake. Elvis was found in the bathroom of his Memphis, Tennessee home Graceland, not moving. Even though people tried to save him right away, Elvis was declared dead at 3:30 p.m. The stated cause of death was a heart attack, but the autopsy report showed that things were more complicated than that. When Elvis was checked out by Dr. Jerry Francisco, the Shelby County medical examiner, it was found that his heart was bigger than normal, being almost twice as heavy as usual. The sudden death of his heart probably had something to do with this problem, called hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. Additionally, toxicology tests showed that he had a lot of prescription drugs in his body, such as large amounts of opiates, barbiturates, and sedatives. The news of his death shocked everyone, and friends were sad and shocked. The details of his untimely death have been the subject of many theories and investigations over the years. How his fans reacted to his death and the problems that arose over his medications. From Dr. Nick, the news of Elvis's death shocked people in the music business and beyond. Fans all over the world held vigils with candles and flowers at the gates of Graceland to mourn. There was a media frenzy, and lots of writers and photographers rushed to Memphis to cover the story. After the fact, questions started to come up about how he died. There were rumors of foul play or a cover-up because many fans couldn't accept the idea that their hero had died of a normal heart attack. In the years that followed, Elvis's close friends and family spoke out about his last days. Friends and family said that he was having a very hard time because he was struggling with addiction, sadness, and the stress of being famous. After Elvis died, a lot of bad things happened to his doctor. His prescription practices came under more and more attention from the law, and in 1980 he was charged with 14 counts of overprescribing drugs to famous people like Jerry Lee Lewis and Elvis Presley. Even though they were found not guilty, more problems happened. The Tennessee Medical Board took away his medical license for good because they were worried about his ethics and judgment after years of giving patients too much medicine. In 1979, Dr. Nick had a strange and scary experience when he was shot in the chest while watching a football game. He was lucky not to be seriously hurt, but the incident stayed a mystery because no one was ever caught. People thought that the killing might have been done by a fan of Elvis who was mad. The funeral and burial for Elvis. The funeral for Elvis was a big, emotional event that fit the king of rock and roll. He was put to rest in the meditation garden at Graceland, the famous home he built in Memphis, Tennessee. Elvis often went to this peaceful and lovely yard to think and feel better. The funeral was held on August 18, 1977, just 2 days after his untimely death. Even though it was private, family, close friends, and a few people in the business were there. Even though it was private, thousands of die-hard fans gathered outside the walls to honor their favorite musician. There were flower arrangements in the meditative garden, including a beautiful display of red roses, which were Elvis's favorite flower. A beautiful waterfall was the background for the sad event. Elvis's coffin, which was made of solid copper and lined with velvet, was the focus of a moving memorial service that included moving speeches and musical acts. Reverend C.W. Bradley, who had married Elvis and Priscilla, led the service, where family and close friends talked about the star's life and how much they loved him. Gospel artists, such as J.D. Sumner and the Stamps Quartet sang favorite songs, and their voices mixed sadness with joy and hope. After the service was over, Elvis's coffin was lowered into the ground to mark his final resting place. People remember Elvis today in the meditation garden at Graceland, where he is buried with his parents, Vernon and Gladys, and his grandmother, Minnie Mae. Several of the singles that came out after he died became top 10 country hits between 1977 and 1981, showing how famous he still is. Graceland, his famous home, opened to the public in 1982. It now has over 500,000 people a year, making it the second most visited home in the United States. Graceland was named a National Historic Landmark in 2006, which added to the societal importance of Elvis. He was honored for his contributions to music by being inducted into 5 prestigious music halls of fame and getting prestigious awards such as the WC, the American Music Awards Award of Merit, and the Handy Award. Elvis's impact went beyond his original recordings. Remixes like A Little Less Conversation became hits around the world and put him back at the top of the charts after almost 30 years. His old songs have become popular again in recent years, with versions of Rubberneckin' and a new release of That's Alright. Presley's commercial success continued after he died. In fact, Forbes magazine regularly named him the highest-earning deceased celebrity. In 2018, RC A Legacy released a new record about Elvis's love of gospel music. In 2022, Baz Luhrmann's biographical film Elvis came out in theaters and was a big hit with both critics and audiences. Austin Butler won awards for his role as Elvis Presley, including a Golden Globe. In January 2023, Presley's personal jet sold at sale for a large amount of money, which shows how much people still love the king of rock and roll. There were rumors that Elvis's grave had been opened and that he may have faked his own death. There is a lot of speculation and whispering, saying that the tomb of the famous Elvis Presley might be opened, which has fans and conspiracy theorists very excited. Where the story came from is still as mysterious as the king himself. It seems to have taken on a life of its own. It all started on online sites where people talked about how Elvis's family might have secrets about where he is buried. People who liked Elvis were excited about the idea of getting a glimpse into the private life of such a famous person. It is not clear who first came up with the idea of opening the tomb, but as soon as it did, it spread like wildfire through online Elvis groups and forums. But what makes these stories spread? Some people say Elvis might have lied about dying. Supporters point to a number of pieces of proof, such as the fact that his tombstone stone is odd, with his middle name, Aaron, spelled wrong. Others say that Elvis was seen in the background of a scene in the 1990 movie Home Alone that took place in an airport. In the scene set in the busy airport, Catherine O'Hara's character is desperate to get a trip home. Behind her is a guy with a beard who is wearing a turtleneck and a sports coat, making people wonder and be interested. He stands just over O'Hara's left shoulder and has a face that looks a lot like what many people think an older Elvis would look like. His eyes, the shape of his face, and even the way he stands make him look a lot like the famous rock and roll star. The man's thick, well-kept beard that covers most of his lower face and could be used as a mask is especially interesting. It's different from Elvis's normal clean-cut look, but it makes him seem more mysterious. Is it a planned attempt to blend in, or is it just a style choice for an extra in the background? His body language also says a lot. It shows that he is impatient and unhappy in a subtle way, which gives the scene more meaning and leads to more speculation. His behavior is like a previous star who is now in the background, watching instead of taking part. His clothes are also noteworthy. The classic sports coat and collar remind me of Elvis's own style. These small details add to the mystery of the idea. Handwriting analysis has also been used to spread reports that Elvis's death was fake. Experts say that his later marks are different from his earlier ones, bringing up the idea that someone else could sign for him to keep up the appearance that he had died. Some people have doubts about the events that happened at Elvis' funeral. Even though he was a well-known and loved public figure, the funeral was surprisingly small and private. To make things even more mysterious, his body was buried in a 9,000-pound copper box, which some people think is too heavy unless the coffin was empty. Also, the speed with which the service was planned after his death was announced has added to people's doubts. Some people wonder if the quick plans were made to avoid being looked at more closely. Over the years, many people have said they saw Elvis living a long time before he was said to have died. Sightings of the famous figure have become a cultural phenomenon, with people all over the world reporting seeing them. People saw him for the first time just one day after he died, getting a one-way ticket to Buenos Aires under the fake name John Burrow, which is linked to Elvis. Many people had theories about what happened, and more reports added to the mystery. Late in 1977, a picture came out that was said to show Elvis relaxing in his pool house at Graceland. There is still debate about the figure's identity, with some insisting that it is Elvis. In the 1980s, Kalamazoo, Michigan became a hub for Elvis fans, with many sightings recorded. People in the area said they saw Elvis still alive and well, acting like he had never been hidden. In a strange phone call in 1988, a voice that sounded like Elvis said that he was ready to make a comeback, which led to even more rumors about his whereabouts. It was seen again and again. In fact, they went as far as music. In 1988, an unknown artist put out a song called Spelling on the Stone, which led people to think that Elvis was singing from beyond the grave or somewhere else. Around the turn of the century, Elvis was said to have been seen at the opening of Legoland in California, but it turned out that there were actually impersonators there. At the same time, loyal Elvis fans kept the excitement going with stories in the weekly newspaper World News about what Elvis was said to have done after 1977. They made Elvis look like he traveled the world and faked his death to remain unknown. Some people thought Elvis put hidden messages in his music. Songs like I'll Never Know and Way Down were seen as possible hints. People saw Elvis's album cover for Promised Land, which showed him in a white suit, as a metaphor for his spiritual trip. Some strange things have been said about Elvis' death. His body was found in a strange position, with the bottoms of his pajamas around his legs. Some people thought that either the autopsy report or the toxicology data had been changed or not released. Why Elvis might have lied about dying. Elvis's life was as colorful as the clothes he wore on stage. Imagine how exciting it would be to step into the spotlight and challenge a world that was watching everything he did. People might have seen him pretending to be dead as a brave way to get away from the stress of fame and constant public attention and start over. For someone like Elvis Presley, who was always in the public eye, the allure of total privacy might have been appealing. It could have given them the simple pleasure of being anonymous, away from the cameras and tabloids. Freedom with money could have also played a role. Elvis may have grown tired of having to make a lot of money and live a fancy life. He may have been looking for a break from the stresses and standards of fame. Also, there's always the chance of a big return. The music business loves a good resurrection story, and Elvis coming back from the dead would be amazing. It could have been the best move of her career, shaking the entertainment business to its core. The weight of his reputation could make people like different kinds of music. By committing suicide, he could have made sure that his fame would live on forever, pure and young in the hearts of his fans. The desire for power is another point of view to think about. In his life, Elvis didn't have much control over his privacy, public image, or personal choices. Faking his death may have been the best way for him to show that he was in charge. It would have a secret that was kept very secret and a closing act that was up to him. Elvis Presley's afterlife, the devoted fans he gained after his death, are likely one of his most lasting accomplishments. Fans look up to him so much that they see him as more than just a music star, they see him as a way of life. Their love for him goes beyond just enjoying his songs. A lot of people live their whole lives this way. From going to Graceland to competing in imitation shows, their activities are as colorful as Elvis's stage clothes. The thing that makes it unique and charming is the trend of Elvis tribute acts. Fans all over the world dress up in fancy jumpsuits and carefully style their hair to look like their hero. Competitors are judged not only on how well they can sing, but also on how well they can imitate Elvis's charm and stage appearance. The level of dedication to being real is amazing. Some people are even studying his words and body language. And then there's Elvis Week, which happens every year at Graceland, the famous musician's old home that is now a museum. Fans from all over the world come to Memphis to remember his life. They hold candlelight vigils, make intricate fan art, and trade rare items. All things Elvis are celebrated for a whole week with lots of music, stories, and a strong sense of community. Some fans are so devoted that their dedication goes beyond the normal, making them like the Church of Elvis. They see him as the Messiah, which gives him almost sacred meaning. At these events, his songs are often sung along with traditional religious practices to show love and unity. Elvis-themed weddings in Las Vegas are a strange but well-liked part of his cultural impact. You can hire an Elvis impersonator to perform at your wedding and sing "Can't Help Falling in Love" as you exchange vows. A fun mix of kitsch and sentimentality, it's become an important part of the Vegas wedding ritual. Online, Elvis fans have created virtual communities where they share rare performance footage, talk about how much he has affected their lives, and even act out different roles as Elvis. Another popular hobby is collecting souvenirs, and some collectors even dedicate whole rooms or homes to show off their collections. From vinyl records and event posters to personal items that the icon used to own, people are always looking for these artifacts. Collectors are especially interested in rare items. Fans honor the king of rock and roll with tattoos, which has been done for a long time. Fans proudly show their devotion by tattooing his likeness, song lines, or even his signature on their bodies. There are simple to complex tattoo patterns, and some fans cover large parts of their bodies to show their support. The popularity of pets that look like Elvis is a strange trend among fans. Some Elvis fans put tiny wigs and sunglasses on their pets, especially hound dogs, to make them look like the king. These animal friends often show up at fan events and parades, bringing joy with them wherever they go. Read Elvis Presley, Destined to Die Young by Sally A. Hodel for more information. Hodel wrote a book called Elvis Destined to Die Young in 2020. It was about the late icon's health history and the things that led to his early death. For this project, Hodel talked to people who knew and were friends with Presley, and she had access to documents that no one else had seen before, which helped her study. Hodel's desire to figure out what was wrong with Presley's health led her to many events in Memphis honoring his death. She also went to the UK for the Strictly Elvis Festival, which took place from September 10th to September 17th, 2022. These events gave her important information and background for her study into Presley's health and the events leading up to his death. In the end, Hodel's book sheds light on the complex factors that led to Presley's untimely death, giving readers a better understanding of the famous musician's life and work. In her book, Hodel wrote about how Presley told singer Kathy Westmoreland about his ongoing eye pain and other health problems and got her support. He asked her to rub his legs a lot because the pain was too much to bear. Furthermore, he often said that he was in widespread pain all over his body. President Elvis Presley's doctor George Nikopoulos, also known as Dr. Nick, said that Presley had constant pain in his back and neck because of serious arthritis. Larry Geller, Presley's hairdresser, said that Presley knew he had major health problems besides those with his colon, liver, and medications. Not only did Presley need medicine to ease his pain, but Hodel also said that he needed it to work, especially on difficult tours. Because traveling is so hard on the body, Presley took more medicine while he was on the road, making the pain worse. Hodel focused on the historical background of Elvis's case, pointing out that people didn't fully understand how powerful drugs were in 1956. But by the 1970s, Presley had trouble sleeping and had to take large amounts of medicine to get through the night. When other solutions didn't work to help, Hodel, on the other hand, pointed out that Presley was determined to keep performing even though his health was getting worse. She talked about how hard he worked and how he did 2 acts every day for 30 days in a row in Las Vegas for a total of 60 shows. But his immune system was weak, and he got fevers and flu-like symptoms from time to time. This made some people question why he was looking for medicine. Still, proof keeps showing that he had a hard time fighting infections. At one point, his doctor tried to see how well he could sleep without medicine, but Presley had been awake for 3 days and needed medicine just to fall asleep. It was planned that Presley would start a 4th tour on May 20th, the year he died. People who knew him well became worried about how much physical pain and stress he was under from keeping such a strict routine. According to the book, Presley was only partly awake when his head was dumped into a pail of cold water during the 2nd show of this planned tour. Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis' boss, is said to have stressed how important it was for Elvis to be on stage every night. Hodel noticed that Presley was worried about his health getting worse, which shows that he was very aware of his illness in his last years. Even so, he didn't tell everyone about his health problems because he was surrounded by people who would agree with him. During this time, people didn't talk about health as openly as they do now. Since Elvis ran his own business, he didn't have to worry about being watched. He was doing everything he could to hide his health problems and only told a few people the truth. Elvis's health got a lot worse, and he gained 25 stone after being locked in his closet for a long time and eating junk food. His health got worse enough that he needed a full-time nurse, and he got sores from not taking care of himself in 1975. A 4-month-old, hard-to-move feces found in his gut during the autopsy showed that his bad diet caused him to have chronic constipation. Elvis also needed a lot of different medicines. In the 7 months before he died, doctors gave him almost 9,000 pills, vials, and shots. In her account of his death, Ginger wrote that his arms were on the ground next to his sides, hands facing up. He hit the ground and fell. Her soft touch turned his face to hers, and he let out a small puff of air. He had a swollen face and his tongue was stuck between his teeth. She slightly raised one eyelid. He looked straight ahead with his blood-red eye. Right away, an autopsy was done, but the family kept the results a secret, which led to a lot of guessing about what killed him. Dan Warlick, who was the lead investigator for the Tennessee office of the state lead medical examiner, went to the autopsy and supported the idea that Elvis died while trying to go to the bathroom. Elvis once said that his long-term constipation was caused by years of abusing prescription drugs and that eating a lot of high-fat, high-cholesterol food caused what is called Valsalva's move. To put it simply, the singer's heart stopped beating because he was trying to go to the bathroom. Some people said he died of an accident. But when the investigation was looked into again in 1994, investigator Joseph Davis didn't agree. During the seizure, Elvis Presley's body was set up so that he was about to sit down on the toilet, he said. His behind was in the air when he hit the mat, and he was already dead when he did. If Elvis had taken too much of the drug, he would have fallen into a deep sleep. He would have sneaked up to the door in his pajamas to ask for help. There are hours it takes to die from drugs. In light of Elvis Presley's death, what do you think? Just write your thoughts in the box below. Thanks for seeing this movie. We hope it was interesting for you. Click on the link that appears to learn more about your favorite celebs. See you then.